Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into the book of Daniel from the King James Version. It's this incredible mix, ancient court drama, prophecy that just bends your mind, and it all revolves around this one guy, Daniel, and his incredible faith. Our aim here, basically, to walk through the main stories, try to unpack some of those big prophecies, and really get a feel for the historical setting.
Yeah, and what's so striking right from the beginning is how it shifts gears. You've got historical accounts, then suddenly you're deep in these symbolic visions. Recognizing that mix, that blend of genres, is really key, I think, to getting the book's layers of meaning and, well, its impact over time.
Okay, let's set the stage then. Chapter 1, it kicks off with Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, laying siege to Jerusalem. This is happening, it says, in the 3rd year of King Jehoiakim's reign, a really crucial moment. It leads to many Judeans being exiled, and that includes our main characters, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. These young men, well, they're clearly marked for something more than just being captives.
Absolutely. And they weren't just any captives, you see. They were specifically chosen. Smart, looked good. The text implies they were sort of the cream of the crop from Judean nobility. Ashpenaz, he's the chief official, he's basically told to train them up for service in the Babylonian court. This means like a 3-year immersion course in Chaldean language learning, culture, everything that mattered in Babylon then. And, importantly, their names get changed. Daniel becomes Belteshazzar, Hananiah, Shadrach, Mishael, Meshach, and Azariah, Abednego. Which isn't just, a label swap. It's an attempt to reshape their identity, pull them into the Babylonian world.
But Daniel, right away, he signals where his loyalty really is. He refuses the king's food and wine, the fancy stuff. Seems small, maybe, but it says so much.
It really does. It wasn't just about diet, not really, or even just keeping kosher, though that was part of it. It was a fundamental stand, maintaining who he was culturally, religiously, when everything was pushing him to assimilate. The king's food probably involved stuff offered to idols, which was a definite no-go for Daniel. So asking for pulse, vegetables, beans, that sort of thing, and
Right.
water. It's bold, quiet resistance, but risky. What's impressive is how he does it. Respectful, but totally firm. Shows wisdom right there.
And it works. They do this 10-day test, right? And Daniel and his friends end up looking healthier than the ones eating the king's rich food. Makes you wonder if there wasn't a bit of divine help there. And beyond that, the text explicitly says God gave these 4 exceptional knowledge, skill, wisdom. And Daniel specifically gets this ability to understand visions and dreams. That's going to be huge later on.
Yes, that divine gift is central. Their smarts aren't just down to talent or Babylonian education. The book frames it as a gift from God. It sets up this core idea. Real wisdom, true insight comes from God. So when Nebuchadnezzar finally checks them out after the training, he finds them 10 times better than all his own magicians and astrologers, which, elevates Daniel and his friends, but it also subtly critiques Babylonian wisdom compared to God's. And the chapter ends noting Daniel stays in service until the 1st year of King Cyrus, who's another key figure way down the line.
Okay, so now we jump to chapter 2, Nebuchadnezzar's dream. This is one of the really famous parts. And it wasn't just any bad dream. It seriously messed with him. So much so that he demands his wise men interpret it without him telling them the dream. Talk about putting him on the spot.
Oh, it's completely unreasonable. It just shows the king's absolute power, maybe his paranoia too, and his threat getting torn apart, houses turned to rubble. I mean, it shows how dangerous it was to be a royal advisor. They push back, right? They say no king has ever asked this. It just highlights how off the wall Nebuchadnezzar was being. This whole crisis, it paves the way for Daniel.
Right, because when Daniel hears about this death sentence for all the wise men, including him and his buddies, his reaction is pretty amazing. No panic. He just calmly asks the king for a bit of time, says he'll get the interpretation. Takes real faith, real courage under fire.
And notice what he does first. He doesn't try to figure it out himself. He gets his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, together to pray. They ask God for mercy, for the answer. It shows, community leaning on God in a crisis.
Yeah.
And then the dream is revealed to Daniel in a night vision. Direct communication from God. His prayer afterwards is just full of praise, acknowledging God's wisdom, his power, how he controls history, sets up kings, takes them down.
And the dream itself. It's just wild imagery, isn't it? This giant gleaming statue, head of gold, chest and arms, silver, belly and thighs, bronze, iron legs, and then these weird feet, part iron, part clay, brittle. Then this rock, cut out but not by human hands, slams into the feet, the weak spot, and the whole statue just disintegrates, crumbles to dust. But the rock, it grows into this huge mountain that fills the whole earth. Wow, It's epic visual stuff.
It really is, and packed with meaning. Daniel breaks it down. Each metal represents a world empire, starting with Nebuchadnezzar and Babylon is the head of gold. Then come others, less glorious silver, bronze, iron. The Iron Kingdom is strong but divided, fractured like the iron mixed with clay. But the real kicker is the stone, the one cut without hands. Daniel says that represents a kingdom set up by God himself, one that will smash all the others and last forever. It's this massive declaration, right? God's in charge, human empires are temporary.
Nebuchadnezzar's reaction is, well, it's intense. He falls down, basically worships Daniel, calls his God the God of gods. He promotes Daniel way up high. And then, because Daniel asks, he puts Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in charge of the province of Babylon too. A complete reversal. All because of Daniel's faith and God revealing the dream.
Yeah, this chapter really hammers home the power of that divine insight. Not just seeing the present, but glimpsing the future. Nebuchadnezzar's reaction, acknowledging God's power, it's significant. Even if maybe he didn't fully grasp it yet. And seeing Daniel and his friends get promoted shows how their faith and wisdom had real-world impact in Babylon.
But it seems Nebuchadnezzar's respect for Daniel's God might have faded a bit, because chapter 3 brings us the fiery furnace, another really famous one. The king makes this enormous gold statue, orders everyone to bow down when the music plays. If you don't, you get tossed into a blazing furnace. Talk about pressure.
Exactly. This statue, it was likely about Nebuchadnezzar showing off his power, demanding total loyalty, a political statement. The synchronized worship, triggered by music, aimed for this mass act of submission. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, even though they're high-ranking officials now, they just refuse, flat out. And their answer to the king is incredible. Basically, we don't even need to think about it. Our God can save us, but even if he doesn't, we are not worshiping your statue. That's commitment.
Nebuchadnezzar is furious, orders the furnace heated 7 times hotter. It's almost comical, the rage. And the irony, the heat is so intense it kills the soldiers who are throwing the 3 men in.
That detail, yeah, it shows the king's out-of-control anger and the immediate blowback for those obeying his cruel command. And then, the miracle. Nebuchadnezzar looks in and sees not 3 men, but 4, walking around totally unharmed. And the 4th one, he says, looks like the Son of God. A direct divine intervention right there for the king to see.
The result is just stunning. They walk out of the furnace, completely untouched, no singed hair, clothes fine, not even smelling of smoke. Nebuchadnezzar is totally convinced now. Acknowledges their God's power to save, decrees harsh punishment for anyone speaking against him, and promotes the 3 friends again. It's such a vivid story of faith being rewarded dramatically.
It really illustrates God's power to protect those who trust him, even when facing certain death. And Nebuchadnezzar's decree this time, it goes further than his reaction in chapter 2. He's more convinced. Their promotion, again, just underlines the tangible benefits of that kind of integrity.
Okay, chapter 4. Another dream for Nebuchadnezzar. This time, it's about a huge tree providing for everyone, but it gets chopped down. Only the stump is left, bound up. And a watcher, some kind of heavenly being, says the tree's mind will change from human to animal for 7 times. Sounds like someone's about to be humbled.
It is. The giant tree sheltering everything clearly represents Nebuchadnezzar's vast kingdom and power. The Watcher's decree, that's divine judgment. Daniel interprets it. The tree is Nebuchadnezzar. He'll be driven out, live like an animal, eat grass, until he finally admits that the Most High God rules over all kingdoms and gives them to whoever he wants. Interestingly, Daniel actually tells the king how he might avoid it. Stop sinning, be righteous, show mercy to the poor.
But Nebuchadnezzar apparently doesn't listen. A year later, he's bragging about his magnificent kingdom, his power, and bam, God strikes him down. Right then and there. He's driven out, lives like a beast. His appearance totally changes, hair like eagle feathers, nails like bird claws. What a fall.
This period of humiliation, it's really the core of the chapter. A direct result of his massive pride, his refusal to truly acknowledge God's authority. The 7 times probably means a significant period. Divine discipline aimed at bringing about real repentance.
And eventually, after that time, Nebuchadnezzar's sanity comes back.
Right.
And he finally gets it. He praises God, recognizes his power to humble the proud. His kingdom is restored, even greater than before. It's a whole arc. Pride, fall, humbling, and then restoration.
Yes, his sanity returning, his kingdom restored, it marks a genuine transformation. He goes from this arrogant, all-powerful ruler to someone publicly declaring God's authority. It's a really potent story about the danger of pride and ultimately about divine justice and mercy winning out.
Then we shift to chapter 5. A new king, Belshazzar,
Mm.
Nebuchadnezzar's successor. And there's this feast that goes really, really wrong. Belshazzar, just full of arrogance, holds this huge party, and he orders the gold and silver cups taken from the temple in Jerusalem so he and his buddies can drink wine from them and praise their idols. It's pure sacrilege.
Oh, it's a deliberate insult to the God of Israel. He's not just using sacred items, he's using them to toast idols. So the response is dramatic. This disembodied hand appears, starts writing on the wall, chilling stuff. And none of Belshazzar's wise guys can figure out what it means. Shows their total impotence against divine judgment.
It's the queen mother, actually, who remembers Daniel and what he did for Nebuchadnezzar. So they call for him. Daniel comes in, and he doesn't hold back. He calls Belshazzar out for his pride for not learning from Nebuchadnezzar's experience. Then he reads the writing.
Mani, tickle, ufasin, spooky.
And Daniel's interpretation is blunt. No sugarcoating, mini.
Right.
God has numbered your kingdom. It's finished. Tickle. You've been weighed on the scales and found wanting, deficient, and pures, or ufersin. Your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. It's a direct, immediate sentence of doom for the kingdom.
And just like that, the text says that very night Belshazzar is killed. Darius the Mede takes the kingdom. Swift. Decisive. Exactly as Daniel said. That speed really emphasizes the certainty of God's word. Belshazzar defies God, and the consequence is immediate. It marks the end of the Babylonian Empire, a huge power shift, just like Nebuchadnezzar's earlier dream hinted at.
Chapter 6. Now we have Darius the Mede in charge. And, surprise, surprise, another plot against Daniel. Daniel is so good at his job, so upright, that Darius thinks about putting him in charge of everything. Naturally, this makes the other officials incredibly jealous. They can't find any dirt on him professionally, so they decide to target his religion, his faithfulness to God.
Right. The fact they can't find fault with his work says a lot about Daniel's integrity, so they exploit his piety. Shows how even good qualities can be twisted by envy and power hunger. They cleverly trick Darius into signing this decree. For 30 days, no one can pray to any god or man except Darius. The penalty, being thrown into the lion's den. And they knew Daniel prayed regularly.
But Daniel, even knowing the decree is signed, sealed, he doesn't change a thing. Goes home, opens his windows towards Jerusalem, prays 3 times a day, just like always. Such a powerful act. Defiance born not of rebellion, but of absolute loyalty to God, even facing death.
His consistency is amazing, prioritizing God above everything, even his own life. And his praying openly, it wasn't to provoke Darius, it was just what he did, his devotion. But that very faithfulness is what his enemies use against him.
So inevitably they report him. Darius is genuinely upset, the text says. He likes Daniel, respects him, but he's trapped by this law, the law of the Medes and Persians, which altereth not.
Right.
Reluctantly, he has Daniel thrown into the lion's den. But his last words to Daniel are interesting. By God whom thou servest continually, he will deliver thee. A glimmer of hope, maybe?
You can feel Darius's conflict. He knows Daniel's innocent, valuable, but his hands are tied by the system. His words sound less like a prediction, more like a desperate hope. Like maybe Daniel's God is powerful enough. Sealing the den with his own ring and the nobles' rings, it makes the sentence seem absolutely final.
But what a night. Darius can't sleep, can't eat, no music. He's completely distraught. First thing in the morning, he rushes to the den, calls out in anguish. And Daniel answers, he's alive, totally unharmed. Says God sent an angel to shut the lions' mouths.
It's another clear miracle, divine intervention. And Daniel points out he was found innocent before God and also hadn't done anything wrong against the king. Underscores his integrity. Darius is overjoyed, naturally, immediately orders Daniel brought out.
And then quick justice. The accusers and their families too are thrown into the den. The lions devour them instantly. Darius then sends out another decree. Everyone in his kingdom should fear and reverence Daniel's God, acknowledges his power, his deliverance, and Daniel. He continues to prosper under Darius and later under Cyrus the Persian. Another powerful story of faith vindicated.
Yeah, this chapter really drives home God's ultimate power, his ability to save those who trust him. Darius's decree is another example of a Gentile ruler recognizing the God of Israel. And Daniel's ongoing success just highlights the rewards, you could say, of that unwavering faithfulness.
Okay, so the last part of the book, chapters 7 through 12, it kind of shifts gears, doesn't it? We move away from those narrative stories into Daniel's own prophetic visions. Chapter 7, for instance, these wild visions of 4 huge beasts coming out of the sea, representing kingdoms, right? And then there's this little horn figure that makes war against God's people. But in the end, judgment comes and the saints of the Most High get an eternal kingdom. It's very symbolic.
Highly symbolic, yes. Those 4 beasts are generally seen as a sequence of major world empires. Babylon, Media-Persia, Greece, Rome, often. The little horn is usually interpreted as a powerful, persecuting figure historically, maybe Antiochus Epiphanes or sometimes looking further ahead. But the end point is key. The ultimate victory belongs to God's people and his everlasting kingdom.
Then chapter 8, another vision, a ram and a goat fighting. Usually understood as Media-Persia, the ram, and Greece, the goat. A big horn on the goat breaks, 4 horns replace it, then another little horn appears, causes havoc, defiles the sanctuary, and there's a prophecy about 2,300 days until the sanctuary is cleansed.
Right, this one seems more directly tied to specific historical events. The ram and goat imagery fits well with Persia and Alexander the Great's Greek Empire. The little horn here is very often linked specifically to Antiochus V Epiphanes, who did persecute the Jews and desecrate the temple. That 2,300 days figure, that's been debated and interpreted in many ways over the centuries.
Chapter 9 is a bit different. Daniel's reading the prophet Jeremiah, thinking about the promised 70 years of exile for Jerusalem. He prays this really intense prayer, confessing sins, asking for mercy for his people. And the angel Gabriel shows up, gives him the famous 70 weeks prophecy. Super complex, often seen as pointing towards the Messiah.
This chapter really shows Daniel's deep engagement with Scripture, his heart for his people, and his commitment to prayer. And yes, the 70 weeks prophecy is absolutely foundational for messianic expectation in the Old Testament. It lays out this timeline leading to an anointed one, his being cut off, and then the destruction of the city and sanctuary. It's incredibly detailed and has generated centuries of study.
And the last section, chapters 10 to 12, Daniel has this final major vision after mourning for 3 weeks. He sees this glorious figure, a man in linen, who reveals a lot about future conflicts, kings of the north versus kings of the south, a time of great trouble, but also mentions Michael, the archangel, standing up for Daniel's people, and talks about resurrection, judgment. And he's told to seal up the words until the time of the end, suggests we wouldn't fully get it until later.
Exactly. These chapters paint a broad picture of future history, full of conflict, but also ultimate deliverance. Those kings of the north and south are often identified with the Seleucid and Ptolemaic rulers after Alexander. Lots of detailed prophecy there. The mention of a terrible time of trouble, but also Michael's protection, offers both warning and hope. And sealing the words does imply that their full meaning would unfold progressively through history.
So wrapping up this deep dive into Daniel, what are the absolute key takeaways, the things we really need to hold on to?
Well, I think first is Daniel's incredible, unwavering faith. You see it in his actions, his prayer, his trust, even when his life is on the line, just consistently. Second, his God-given ability with dreams and visions. It highlights God's power to reveal his plans, his purpose, both for then and for the future. And overarching everything, really, is the theme of God's sovereignty, his ultimate control over history, over all these powerful empires. They rise, they fall, but his kingdom is the one that lasts forever.
And how does a book like this, written thousands of years ago, still speak to us? What's its relevance for you today?
Oh, I think it offers so much. Timeless lessons about leadership, integrity, humility versus the dangers of pride. We see that clearly with Nebuchadnezzar. It's a powerful model for holding on to your faith, your convictions when you're under pressure to conform, to assimilate. That's still very relevant. And maybe it encourages us to look at history, even current events, with a bigger perspective, to consider that maybe there's a larger divine purpose at play.
Okay, so finally, let's leave you with something to think about after this deep dive is over. How might those big themes from Daniel, God's sovereignty, our human responsibility, how might they connect with the challenges, the decisions we face today, in our own lives, in the wider world? What does it really look like to live with faith when things are uncertain, trusting in something bigger, while still engaging fully with the world around us? Something to definitely keep pondering.